Hey guys, Quicksilver Gaming here, and we have some fantastic news today. Patch 1.58 was released for Ultimate General American Revolution, and it brings a whole slew of updates, bug fixes, and balance changes. This is the first real update patch since Early Access opened, and it looks pretty awesome. Just a reminder though, this game is still in very early access, so everything is still fluid and will probably change in some way before full release. Now there is a lot to cover. I left out some of the more minor or redundant details, but let's dive right on in. For major changes, the campaign has been extended through the 15th of June, 1777. Previously, the campaign content ended on August 12th, 1776. This brings the New York Theater of Operations to the game. As a note, this is save game compatible, but based on reports, I would probably recommend starting a new campaign. They also reduced the frequency of sea invasions and increased loot recovery on lower difficulties. These have been some things that have been requested for quite some time, but I imagine this will be a balancing act all the way up until full release. Another cool feature, the global map mini-map now shows battles and invasions, which I think is amazing because sometimes you didn't really know that a battle had been started, especially naval battles, and you really only knew until, well, it was over and bad things happened. Another cool one, I really like this change. Weather now has a larger impact on desertion and disease, and has a larger impact on casualties. I like that because I feel it was too easy to commence multiple offensives during the winter months when the British are basically dormant. Now on to general improvements. Land tactical battles will now be available for lopsided battles. An indicator will be displayed if the AI is likely to attempt to retreat from these battles. This is something I really wanted, because these lopsided battles could turn into really long drawn-out skirmishes on the strategic map, and they just took way too long to deal with the enemy on the strategic map. At least this way you can force them to retreat almost instantaneously by starting up a tactical battle, and then they're routing on the strategic map, and if you've got cav nearby, you're very likely to capture them. At worst case scenario, you've caused them to rout and get them the heck out of Dodge. Another cool feature, AI behavior on the global map has been improved. Well, at least I think it's cool. There's no real notes about it, so we'll have to see exactly what this means. I hope it's maybe the AI is more aggressive or more defensive when it needs to be, or is a little bit better around forts, or protecting its supply lines. Those would be some great AI features on the global map. Now, a huge one is that there is an increased time before battle loot disappears, as it would disappear really fast, which made it really frustrating because you didn't receive much loot in the first place, and then you got there too late, and I mean, you felt like you ran over there right away to grab the loot, and it's like, oh, too late, got there too late, no loot for you. So I like this one a lot. Now, my favorite quality of life improvement is that the game will now pause on the global map after exiting a tactical battle. This one seems so simple, but it is something I would do after every tactical battle because enemy units would rout or scatter like cockroaches and you really needed to pause the battle. It also always puts you on Boston, so you really needed to pause to get back onto the map where your tactical battle was. So the fact that this is now automatic, A+ from me, really nice. It's such a small quality of life improvement, but it's really big in the grand scheme of things. There's also a new indicator for units that are charging. And in this custom battle that I've got up here, you should be able to see it. It looks like a red comet or artillery blast over the unit's banner. I'm not sure I'm sold on the icon that shows that they're charging, but the fact that there's something that says hey, these guys are charging, I like that. Nice quality of life feature. The next one, it feels like it'll be huge for the long-term campaign. I'll have to see how it goes, as I didn't really get to... I didn't have this issue in 1 year, but maybe, 2, 3, 4, 5 years into the campaign, you'll really need this to happen. You can now produce the same item multiple times so that more factories can be allocated. What this means is that you could queue up ammunition twice or muskets twice. Basically, you can queue up something twice and have more overall factories working on that product. We'll have to see how the math works out, if it's like better to queue up ammunition twice with 6 factories on each one than ammunition once with 12 factories on it. It'll be interesting to see if it works that way at all, or if it needs to get balanced out some more. Something I've been mentioning a lot that I wish the AI did, and you can see it in this custom battle eventually, and it does work, is the AI artillery will now set up closer to the enemy line, so it is more often near supporting infantry. This should make the AI artillery a lot more effective, as one, it's much closer to your line, so it'll be doing a like shot, or it'll be doing grape shot, and that is really important, because before I just used to sit on the defensive and I knew that enemy AI artillery would be way far back, and if it was firing round shot, it just didn't do a lot of damage and I didn't really care about their artillery. Also, you could theoretically sneak units around and pick off their artillery, which you couldn't necessarily do because it was invincible before, but they've changed it. So it's just nice now that the enemy protects their artillery and they move it forward so it's more effective. Now, general balancing. The surrender formula has been reworked to account for more factors and make surrenders more likely. I felt like this was more apparent in the custom battle that you can see on the screen. It'll happen later on as nothing's happened yet, but it did feel like more enemy units surrendered, and I like that, as opposed to them just completely shattering or completely routing and you having to chase them forever. An absolute gem is that militia can now shoot. Holy crap, they were really bad before, and now they can actually do some damage in a firefight. They're still not great, but now they aren't completely useless, and I think this will make a lot of people happy, because there were a lot of sour apples on the Discord about how bad militia were, and I'm not saying they're amazing now, but I definitely felt like my militia actually did something in this battle, and I only had 4 of them. An interesting one is that rifles have been restricted to skirmishers. I personally like this change, but I'm not sure everyone will agree. It does take away some player agency and, like, you know, customizing your units, and there's this unit you can get in the campaign that's, I don't remember their full name, but they're something rifles, and you'd expect them all to have rifles, but they're Fusilier units, so I'm not sure how that'll work out. We'll have to see when we do the campaign, although I'm not really sure that unit's worth it in the grand scheme of things. Now, production and market prices of weapons and ships have been adjusted, so it should now generally be profitable to sell produced items, which I think is always a bonus. It's another way to gain income. You could produce, say, muskets and then sell the muskets, and in theory, you should be making a profit from it, which, I mean, that's, you know, American capitalism, right? You make stuff and sell it to make a profit. At least that's the theory, right? Reputation change from crew damage in naval battles has been reduced relative to ship type. I feel like this is very, very necessary, as you could farm ridiculous amounts of reputation from naval battles, and on the flip side, you could lose an absurd amount of reputation for losing a ship of the line, or just having a ship of the line badly damaged. I can't stress enough how bad reputation gains were from naval battles. You could basically unlock the entire research tree with the amount of reputation you would gain from naval battles, and on the flip side, you could just flat out lose the entire campaign because you forgot about 4 big ships in the sea or in the Atlantic Ocean, and the British went and crushed it, and it's like, bye-bye, your campaign's over because 4 ship of the lines were destroyed out at sea. So hopefully they continue to balance this. I feel like this is going to be one of those that they have to continuously balance, because this is kind of like a make or break for the game in terms of your campaign being way too easy or being over. I mean, just done. The end. You lose. So I like this. I like that they're addressing it. and I hope they continue to monitor this. Invasion fleets now contain troop transports, so I'm assuming that means you'll be able to have a proper naval engagement with enemy fleets. Before, you would sometimes have a naval engagement and there'd be like a ship or two, and it didn't really feel like an invasion fleet. And what I've seen from Sterner on the Discord is it sounds it'll be, I think the ship is called like an Indiaman or something like that. I believe it's like a 40-gun ship or something. So it's a pretty large transport ship, so it won't be a pushover. It won't be like in a, Total War Rome or whatever, where, if you catch enemy transport ships out in the open sea, you just absolutely annihilate them. These won't be easy to destroy, but I imagine you can destroy them if you build up a proper navy by yourself. So I really like that change. I feel like that makes it more immersive that there's proper transport ships in the fleet. Another one, captured ships will sell for less. This is big because it was far too easy to farm rep and money with your navy previously. I mean, ships are just a disaster in the previous one, and the devs knew it. It just wasn't like a big pain point for them to release the initial pre-release. And I get it. The ships will always need to be balanced throughout this game, but this is big. If you went heavy on Navy and you figured it out, the game just became super easy mode. Another interesting change is that when ships are repaired multiple times, their maximum armor, hull, and speed will decrease. This makes sense to me, but I don't know how this will work in the long run. I think this will be one that needs to be monitored because it could become more annoying than good. Now on to tactical battles. Muskets and rifles have a longer range and better damage at shorter ranges. I like that. I felt ranges were too short to begin with. Volleys have been changed so that units are more likely to get off a damaging volley against chargers. I like that a lot. Not much to be said. Flanking angles were expanded. Not sure how I feel about this one. I need to test this out some more to see if it makes sense to me. Small decrease in speed of non-supply units. I think this is a good change. Units move too fast. Increased penalties for low condition. This was one of my biggest gripes, and I'm glad to see this because previously condition did not matter. Now it does, and the most important thing it affects is that units will no longer chase or charge when exhausted, so it's much more like Civil War now. Previously, you could have a cavalry unit just continuously engage in melee, chase, and charge, and it was really broken. They can no longer do that. That's awesome. Continuing with condition regen rate has been increased, and adjusted condition drain rates have been adjusted for most units. This is awesome because it took way too long for a unit to recover condition, and cavalry now lose condition quickly, which I very much approve of. Cavalry and artillery units now take more damage. I noticed this particularly with artillery in this custom battle. Artillery units were way too powerful before. Now there is an actual risk of having them in your front line. Skirmishers also take less damage now. I like that a lot. They should be a lot more useful now. I just like this change. I like it a lot. Routing units are no longer invincible. Huzzah! This was horrible previously. They now take increased damage when they are routing, and they do less melee damage. This is huge. I considered this a bug previously. That's how bad it was. Charges will now continue if the target routes, and will end early if the charger is exhausted. I hope this works for units at fallback because skirmishers were really hard to charge as their skirmishing mechanic is like a fallback, and they would continuously break charges. They added condition, morale, and distance restrictions for AI charges. I don't know how the AI works. I thought it was just like us, but obviously it's not. And it did feel like the AI could literally just charge across the map forever and always, and it was very frustrating because charging gives you a speed boost, and I was like, okay, you can charge from a quarter mile away. Congratulations, you're a marathon runner. That's ridiculous. Very cool one. Firing will now temporarily make units easier to spot. I mean, that just makes sense. That should always be a thing. I always find that to be a problem in games where it's like, oh, this invisible gun keeps shooting me. It's like, We saw a flash, they'll smoke over there, we heard a noise, we know they're over there. This is just a good change. There's no negatives to it. Artillery shot damage area now depends on the caliber of cannon. That just makes sense to me. So, I guess what that means is the range ban of the shot damage, which is, it's different than the round ball. I don't know the exact wording for this, but basically artillery should have round shot, and canister, and the shot is kind of like the exploding one, and then the round ball is for super distance, so at least I think that's what it is. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I could be wrong on that one. They also increase canister range, reduce the chance to miss with canister, which is good, and decrease the damage at longer ranges, which is also good. Last but not least, some mentioned bug fixes by the developers. They fixed the issue that was causing cavalry and routing units to take very low melee damage. We talked about this above a little bit, but this is huge. Routing units should take more damage, and then cavalry should also take damage. They were like invincible in melee, and I can confirm, if you watch that little video in the background, you can see that the cavalry do take melee damage now. Company stat gains weren't transferring to their regiments. That has been fixed. Artillery now replenish HP in soldiers. Yay, that was really obnoxious. Ghost officers should no longer be a thing. This was where when the officer died and their portrait went black, you could leave them there as if they were still alive. We called them zombie officers, but it was like, oh, they're dead, but it doesn't matter, I'll just keep them in their spot, and they count as being alive. And then they just said many other crashes and issues were fixed based on customer reports, which I greatly appreciate. I reported a bunch of bugs. I'm sure many other people reported a lot of bugs. I love to see this. So overall, I would say this is a fantastic update. I'm super excited to have another year and different stages added to the main campaign, and some of the major bugs and issues look to have been fixed, or at least an attempt to fix them has been made. Obviously, there's still more work to go in terms of balancing, quality of life updates, and bug fixes in general, but you have to love that the devs are actually listening to the community and making it a priority to fix the game while still providing new content to the consumer. There are companies and games out there that just simply can't do both at the same time, and I'm looking straight at you, Bannerlords. I mean, you're just one of them, but there are so many other companies that can't seem to add new content while squashing major bugs and balance problems in their game. It's like they can only do one or the other, and it drives me nuts. Because you either wait forever for new content, or you wait forever for a major bug to be fixed. So I just can't say enough how much I appreciate that. I have been eagerly awaiting this update. I have purposely not started a new campaign because I wanted to start a new one with all of the updates that I knew or assumed were coming. With that being said, guys, a new campaign for Ultimate General American Revolution will drop on Monday. So we'll join the Continental Army in its mission to repel the British from America. And that's it for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, all of that YouTube jazz. And as always, guys, until next time.